what is the intent of a farm support center. And then from there, we're gonna head back out onto the farm. This is where we get a little bit of a walk-in. We're gonna walk to the nursery on the farm, and not kid nursery, plant nursery, in case anybody was ready to be playing with kids. I know. We do have the child care facility, which we'll pass on the way in. I'll point it out, which is super cool, and I absolutely love it. We'll go to the nursery, and we're going to meet with Carlos, Mario, and Sarah, and learn about research and development. So this is where it starts diving deep. Rebecca and I were asking them some questions on pre-trip, trying to better understand ourselves. What are you doing? Because it is super geeky, scientific, like it is absolutely incredible. He's been working in coffee his entire life. He has dedicated his life to research and development and to ensuring the future of coffee for everyone and looking at how to accomplish that through tree varieties, hybrids that he created. When we talk about hybrids, we're not talking about genetically modifying, we're not talking about creating something. We are old-fashioned cross-pollinating and looking at rootstocks and determining what is the healthiest, what is the best, what are we looking for in this tree. So over the course of 15, 20 years, he has invested in and created these hybrids that are launched out into the world now. San Isidro, Victoria, and San Roque being three of them. Spent about an hour with them at the nursery learning about hybrid and varietals and tissue culture sampling and all of the stuff that they're doing. We'll walk through the greenhouse. We'll spend some time in the R&D plot, get to experience a little bit of the work that they do on the ground, and then we'll go back to the Farmer Support Center, and we'll spend pretty much the rest of the day at the Farmer Support Center from there. So there's a lot that's going on, and as mentioned, we'll be focusing. We spent a little more time with this guy.
Woo! Yeah, let's get rowdy.
Matt's going to dive a little more into buying, and we'll spend a little more time with him. We have an exporter, so Cora Cafe is one of our exporters.
It's a good bus, my favorite bus. This is, and I don't say that on every bus. We're going to talk a little bit about what a buyer does and why I'm here speaking with you. Does anyone want to guess who the largest coffee company would be? And I'll give you a hint. It's a coffee company. It's a company that owns about 30 different coffee companies. Nestle would be number 2. That's a good guess.
Pepsi.
Nope, not Pepsi. Not a bad guess. You probably have never heard of the holding company, but you've definitely heard of the companies that they own. A holding company called JAB. That probably doesn't mean anything to you. But if you go through the list of any other coffee company in the U.S., you're probably going to get on it. Pete's,
Folgers,
Keurig, Caribou, Panera, Krispy Kreme, Stumptown, Intelligentsia. They own a bunch of Dowie Egberts, which is a big brand in Europe. So, so anytime you go to Stumptown or Intelligentsia and they say they're an independent coffee company, they're not an independent coffee company. Yeah.
We actually just planted right over at the corner. You barely can see the fence if you looked over the trees. Then next to it is our medical clinic and dentist office. This is available to all the workers on the farm. Worker housing, migrant worker housing, or some of it. And then this little building right here is our
This is where we pulled out down yesterday to go to the soccer field. Went down that road.
So this is our team facility. Victor was realizing that putting all the kids together just didn't really work. So he wanted to create a space for the older kids to be able to be and be safe.
Now we're at the Farmer Support Center. Way across the way is a visitor center where we were yesterday, but we're still on our farm.
I'm super happy and I'm super proud to be here and see all of you that we all work for this great organization that serves Thank you for being here and welcome to Hacienda Alsacia. Welcome to Costa Rica. It's great that you have a wonderful weather yesterday and today as well. It's really good because we're in the tropics. Sometimes we have full rain. It's not that good. So yeah, today is perfect. So I understand yesterday you learned a little bit about coffee production from the seed to the exportation. So I guess at this point you already know like producing coffee is not that easy. Like each step of producing coffee has risks that something could go so wrong. Since the planting the trees, picking the harvest, and until in the cafeterias the masrena is calibrated, like a long process could be wrong. So in a Starbucks we know that we need to take care of each process of the coffee. And we know the farmers are the baseline of all this coffee production. And that's why the Starbucks created the Farmer Support Center. And basically is to help the farmers to have better techniques of how to produce coffee. I mean, farmers, they are old people and their families are been in the coffee business for a very, very long time. And it's not like we go to the farms and we teach them how to produce coffee. They already know. However, there is some topics or some things that maybe the farmers need a little bit of help. How to preserve environment, how to save water, how to deal with pests and diseases, how to fight climate change. And that's why we are here, and that's why all the agronomists help the coffee growers. And this is where me and the other agronomists of the Farmer Support Center all over the world, we enter in these complex equations that produce coffee. But since I go forward with this, who can tell me what is the coffee belt? Someone know? Yeah.
The line across the equator where the coffee regions, the regions that grow the coffee.
Yeah, exactly. And that region, there's different countries. And what we share is like we have the perfect condition to grow coffee. And that's why at Starbucks put a Farmer Support Center all over this coffee belt. So who can tell me how many Farmer Support Center we have?
10.
10, perfect. You guys know everything. You're an expert. And who can tell me the countries? Start in Latin America. That's where we are. What are the countries? Yes.
Good job.
India,
Mexico.
Guatemala, Indonesia.
Brazil. Someone say Guatemala. Colombia.
Peru.
No, Peru no. It's one of our regions, but we don't have Farm Support Center there yet. So there's 5 in Latin America. I think we got all 5.
Yep.
Yeah. So we have to cross it out. Rwanda. Yeah.
Indonesia.
Africa. We have 3 in Africa. Rwanda. Tanzania. Perfect. And we have 2 more in Ethiopia. Sumatra. So everybody knows Farm Support Centers, but everybody doesn't know you. We skipped your introduction. Who is Loana? Tell us your background and maybe your journey to Starbucks, and then you're an agronomist. So, but we'd love to hear more about your role as an agronomist. You'll tell that later, but give us some background about you. Okay, perfect. Well, I'm Loana. I'm born and raised in San Jose, Costa Rica. So mainly more like a city girl, and I was not too related to coffee until I finished my university. I recently got my degree. I did it in the COVID. So I get it like so recently. And I started in coffee as an intern in the Costa Rican Institute for Coffee. We call it ICAFE. And there I start as a phytopathologist. Was really interesting. And after that, I have the opportunity to take a full-time position here in the Starbucks, but as a professional services. but I had the opportunity to learn a lot because basically what I did was working with a lot of farmers. Like basically was driving like to all the coffee areas and work with the farmers about the cost of production because Starbucks knew like if the farmers don't have the good knowledge about their incomes, they are not going to be good. So for almost, I think, 2 years and a half, I was working in this really exciting project in Costa Rica and only have like one agronomist. I think Colombia is the biggest and have to. It's, it's not too much and we help so much farmers. So the question here is how we do this. How as a Starbucks we have the possibility to get through all these farms. And basically, Starbucks created the Capital Practice Certification, and in there is like we ensure like all the farms that we work with have ethical practices. So that means our coffee and our sourcing is ethical and sustainable. The three main topics of these capital practices is social responsibility, economic transparency, and environmental leadership. So we ensure all the farms follow this step to produce coffee. And to this, we add quality and continuous improvement. So each farm, every year, make different changes that we can ensure their farms are improving. And this is the main work we do. As I said before, we don't work directly from the farmers. We work with the cooperative and with the suppliers. So those little groups are, we call them chain. Got it?
Yeah, like a supply chain.
Yeah, the supply chain. And they enter into Starbucks coffee practices. So they can sell us coffee. And every year, a person who is a third party from Starbucks go to the farms and verify the farms are follow our requirements. And these companies get like a different score. If they have 85 or plus, they become strategic to us. And they have less, they still can sell coffee to Starbucks, but they are not strategic.
And now we're going to walk up from the Farmer Support Center over to the nurseries. See where they're researching new plants. Nope. Yeah, probably tonight because everyone's leaving tomorrow, so there are less chance to see everyone.
Well, do you have a layover, or are you just flying straight in? Straight in. Oh yeah, ours is a layover.
Well, that's nice.
It looks like it was
Oh, we're gonna dig again.
so that's what.
No little babies.
They're big enough to go. Play with the big.
No, that's the screen. That's the main break.
Everybody can kind of move around. I can see. Okay, welcome to the nursery. I'll let Carla talk a little bit about this, and then there's a nice shade on this side if anybody wants a hit of shade. Come on over.
As you can see here, this is the normal system that we are using to germinate the coffee seeds. So as we were discussing, it takes about 2 months to germinate, and this stage is what we call soldier, mainly because of the shape of the parchment that is still holding there. The next step will be the butterflying stage, when we have, these are pulse leaves, and then we will have the true or the final leaves. We are using also those plastic tubes in order to grow the seedlings, but because of the volume of soil that we are using on those tubes, we need to deliver to the farmers or planters at the field about 4 months later after the transplant. So that is the whole process. This is the early stage, the beginning of the whole evaluation process. As we were discussing, normally we will plant about 100 trees for each of the coffee varieties in order to have all the information, also to generate, sometimes we need seeds, or also to check on quality. So those 100 trees will give us enough productivity to do different evaluations. If there is a particular line or hybrid that is ready to move to this next step, we increase the area and we work together with big cortejos, and sometimes we set up like bigger plots at the farm level. We have been discussing about buying a new farm nearby Alsacia, just to increase the area for the different experiments of areas that we have been. Also, the whole idea is to build facilities so that farmers can stay at the farm, and I think that would be very unique also experience for everybody. And hopefully you will be back and be able to stay here.
For your internships that you do. Carlos, can you tell us, so yesterday we were at the dry mill and we saw coffee being dried in parchment to 11% moisture, which is what we ship coffee, the moisture content of coffee.
A little bit the soil, just to avoid any air inside the bag. And then you fill out about 1 inch from the top.
Why do we want to pack the soil?
Yeah, mainly to eliminate any air. So you want to have a very solid, massive volume of soil. And then you just make a hole about 1/2 inch. And then we are using 2 seeds for each bag. And that's very unique for Costa Rica. And the main goal for that is to increase productivity per area. So you have a higher number of coffee trees in 1 hectare. So normally we are using 5,000 coffee trees per hectare, which are really 10,000 because we are using 2 for each of the planting points. Okay, ready to go?
Okay, Chris, what are we doing?
We're going to be planting our very own seedlings. So if you're watching this in your wave 16, look for them. Oh, thank you.
I have seeds here as well.
Everybody's gonna need 2.
I was like, I always want to tell someone so that if it happens to me, that they'll in turn tell me.
About a knuckle deep. You don't want to use your finger. So like a knuckle down,
We've got our little seeds.
and then lightly cover it with soil.
Is this enough dirt or do I need more?
1 inch from the top, but yeah, that's quite okay. But I would put another scoop in. Okay. Yeah.
And now it's Katie's turn. Oh, maybe not. And it's Katie's turn. Go ahead.
It'll be watered out. Oh yeah, cover it up with a little bit of dirt, and then you can put it.
They said 1 inch from the top, right?
Or you can go over it. Depends how much you want.
So I think we got it.
A little bag of dirt.
You think that's good? I think that's good.
Yeah.
You'll notice that these seeds are still in parchment too. It's not green coffee. Because the parchment, when they emerge in the soldier stage, that's the,
Don't screw it up.
I asked, like, do they come back and like check our work after?
I don't know.
Like, did someone?
I mean,
come
if it
and,
doesn't
like,
grow,
realign
then-
all the trees yesterday after we planted them. So I feel like they were all so perfect. If they're, like,
I'm just bummed we can't come back and look and see them.
Yeah.
I would want to go back and like make sure that they're all planted properly.
take care of our children.
We appreciate you.
I'll try to remember to take
Yeah.
a picture and post it to the WhatsApp.
That'd be awesome.
So we're gonna mark which wave is which over here. There we go. Little plant. Have a good life, little plant. Make lots of coffees.
You want a healthy coffee growing system, and one way to help participate in that is to ensure that super low coffee prices aren't In some countries, quite a lot, we can. In some countries, we can affect the price if we're not strategic in how we go into the market. There are some countries where we buy an outsized percentage of the rabbit that's sold. I mean, we're one of the larger Sumatra purchase buyers of Sumatra rabbit coffee in the world. If we're not careful when we're buying our Sumatra coffee, that can happen. Also, we can be bidding against ourselves. Morgan.
Can you give an example of how political systems would affect the buying process?
Yeah, totally. I can tell you one right now. Nice. So, for various reasons, you could have political upheaval, revolutions, civil war. Just think of Ethiopia a couple of years ago. There was a civil war in Ethiopia that was disrupting shipments of coffee. Right now, we're dealing in a system in Kenya where the Kenyan government has changed the rules and regulations of private companies milling coffee, meaning getting their milling license to be able to mill coffee for export. Where that hurts us is that means our suppliers aren't able to mill their coffee for export. So you say, okay, well, you can find another mill to mill it for export, which is possible. But then that disrupts the cafe practices supply chain, which then means the coffee that we're purchasing is not fully transparent, is not fully traceable, and thus we're stuck in a bind on a decision made by the Kenyan governmental authority. Now, of course, the countries and their governments are fully able to make decisions vis-a-vis their coffee industry. Sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't. Tanzania tried to do that a couple years back and backfired. So, and then that's, I guess, more of a nuanced reason, but again, I think just going back to the Ethiopia situation, you could have civil wars that are impacting not only the harvesting of coffee, but also being able to get that coffee out to export. Starbucks relies on a group of trusted suppliers, long-term trusted suppliers to do that for us. Without these suppliers in place, we would not be able to buy coffee and you would not be able to sell coffee. So I thought it would be fantastic if we could introduce you to some real-life coffee suppliers. They can talk to you a little bit about what they do, a little bit about what they do for Starbucks. Without further ado, Stefan Nicole, please.
Thank you very much. This is my friend. We do business, and yes, we try to help Starbucks a little bit.
Great. Why don't you introduce yourselves, your company, and a little bit about what you guys do?
My name is Stefan. We live second generation, not coffee producer. My dad was a coffee producer, but he also was an exporter. I left Costa Rica many years ago. We were both born here, and Nicole's father, my partner at Corey Cafe S.A., which means Costa Rica Cafe, started Corey Cafe in 1965. Eric joined Corey Cafe after doing an apprenticeship in Germany, like I did, but I did it in Germany and then went to Switzerland. In 1989, and Nicole has joined us for third generation Corey Cafe family 2 years ago. 2022. What do we do? I joined Corey Cafe in 2003. I worked 13 years for a multinational company that is also a supplier of Starbucks. When I used to work for them, I was not a Starbucks supplier. I started being a Starbucks supplier in 2003 with the cafe practices that was not called cafe practices that today you know and you will learn about. At that time in 2003, what we also did was support the growers because it was something very new. It was something kind of difficult because they had to change what their grandparents and dads taught them how to be a coffee producer. And actually, cafe practices, in my opinion, was one of the best things that could happen to Costa Rican producers and in general worldwide producers. Because I don't know if anybody produces something somewhere in the US or wherever you come from. Production is something, if you don't control it, or you don't do the exact things, it's not as easy as it seems. Our grandfathers and my father, they just applied whatever they told them to apply to the farm. They did not check soils, nor the leaves, nor whatever was needed. And nowadays that is done. And the producers nowadays write down what they do and how they do it. And this actually helps them to do it every year better. This agronomy office was another great thing because producers can come here and learn and ask Carlos Mario and everyone here what to do and how to do it correctly. So for Costa Rica, that's what I can talk of. Since 2003, cafe practices has changed for the better. Producers are sustainable now. The production costs are more or less sustainable. Okay, we have other stuff that influences the coffee production, but it showed them how to do it sustainably, which is the most important part, and they know what good qualities are and to supply Starbucks with the best qualities. As I heard my friend say about Kenya and moving around when it's not enough and you have more consumption, well, that happens here as well.
So do you only sell Costa Rican coffee?
To Starbucks? Yes.
Okay. Do you have other customers besides Starbucks?
Yeah, we have a few customers like Starbucks. In 2003, we used to do 100,000 bags of 69 kilos net to Starbucks, and nowadays it's sadly, but we're at 20,000. It's in general, in the last 15 years, the coffee production in Costa Rica has come down more than 50%. Why? Because we are in the Central Valley. All this region is actually the best soil of Costa Rica. And of course, there was a time where being a coffee producer or agriculture was not good enough. And real estate actually paid 10 times as much as being a coffee producer. So many farms in these areas have turned to housing and other things, fabrics, Intel, and stuff like that.
Provides us with all the documentation. We pay them 100% cash right there. That's when he was mentioning some of his other customers might wait a year to pay him. So that ship is chugging along. So think of that from a Starbucks point of view. We pay for coffee. That ship could be steaming along for another 2 months before we even receive it in our warehouse. That helps again Corey Cafe, because in Corey Cafe it eases up their cash flow. Remember, they already paid in cash to the producers. The producers have already been paid, and the coffee is steaming along. So let's say it's steaming along, I'll say Baltimore. So it's steaming along to Baltimore, it arrives in Baltimore, and we get a sample of that, and we take it to our quality lab in Seattle, because we cup every arrival sample. We want to make sure that the coffee that arrives is the quality that we expect. And let's say we cup that coffee, like, oh, this is terrible. Or this has a defect, and this defect isn't caused by transit. It's not because it was on the ship too long, or it's not because the container was damaged and stormwater came in. Starbucks contractually has something called no approval replacement, no approval, no sale. That means if we reject the coffee in Baltimore, we're essentially saying to Corey Cafe, hey, Corey Cafe, you have 2 weeks to pick up this coffee in Baltimore. You need to pay us back what we paid for that coffee. Not only that, you need to pay us back the cost of that steamship line trip, because that was on Starbucks paid for that eventually. Oh, and you need to replace the coffee. So we're gonna put that replace the coffee aside. So now Corey Cafe is sitting there with a container full of coffee in Baltimore,
And that's an easy one.
and they need to figure out what to do with it. So so what would you do with a container of coffee in Baltimore?
First of all,
Would you ship it back here?
it's impossible to ship it back. That would make it crazy. I mean, expensive, because we already paid the shipping to Baltimore. And I'm gonna say something that sounds very, very strange. Shipping it back is more expensive than actually taking a hit, because those bags are marked Starbucks, SCTC, whatever, Baltimore. Everybody knows that that coffee is a rejection, an RTV.
Return to vendor.
Return to vendor. You can make a song with it if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we would have to rebag it in the US, which is also very expensive. And the bad part of having an RTV is actually you can do whatever you want. Everybody knows it. If you suddenly have a coffee in Baltimore and it's a stock lot or something that somebody wants to sell, they already smell it, that it's something